Greetings from Jobsite India. Well, top news, a new initiative from our end. Hope you all will enjoy. So, without further delay, let's start. In show of force, US Navy sails through South China Sea, Washington DC. In defiance of China, a US aircraft carrier group is sailing through the South China Sea, with China claims as its own. China has enlarged its military presence in the South China Sea to include building artificial islands and air bases. US warships have passed through the South China Sea with increasing frequency in recent years, in a show of force to China and American allies in Asia against Chinese claims. Let's move to our next important slide. Iranians vote in presidential election marred by disqualification row. Iranians are voting to elect a new president with all but one of the four candidates regarded as hardliners. Opinion polls suggest Ibrahim Raisi, a conservative Shia cleric who heads the judiciary, is the clear favorite. Mr. Raisi is an ally of Iran's supreme leader and has been touted as a future possible successor. Dissidents and some reformists have called for a boycott, saying the barring of several contenders left Mr. Raisi with no serious competition. Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei cast his vote early on Friday morning in Tehran and encouraged people to go the polls. Each vote counts. Come and vote and choose your president. He said, this is important for the future of your country. Let's move to our next important news. Ethiopia election, a sham or democratic rebirth. Ethiopia is poised to hold what its prime minister calls the nation's first attempt at free and fair elections. But it is taking place amid deepening insecurity, a boycott by some leading opposition parties, and the Tigray region being consumed not only by conflict but by starvation and the rising threat of famine, writes BBC Africa correspondent Andrew Hardinge. Let's move to our next important news. Giant rhino fossils in China show new species was taller than giraffe. A new species of the ancient giant rhino, among the largest mammals to walk on land, has been discovered in northwestern China, researchers say. The Paraceratherium lingzians, which lived some 26.5 million years ago, weighed 21 tons, the equivalent of four large African elephants. The hornless creature's head could also reach 23 feet or 7 meters to graze treetops, making it taller than a giraffe. The new finding were concluded from fossils discovered in Gansu province. Let's move to our next important news, please. TikTok owner ByteDance says its earnings double in 2020. ByteDance, the Chinese company behind the smash hit video app TikTok, saw its earning double last year. An internal memo released to staff showed that the firm's total revenue jumped by 111% to $34.3 billion for 2020. The figures underscore TikTok's continued global popularity. It comes as ByteDance and several other Chinese technology giants have come under increasing pressure from governments around the world. ByteDance also saw its annual gross profit rise by 93% to $19 billion, while it recorded a net loss of $45 billion for the same period. Let's move to our next important news, please. Gaza fire balloons draw renewed Israel airstrikes. Israel's military carried out airstrikes on the Gaza Strip overnight on Thursday after Palestinian militants there sent more incendiary balloons into southern Israel. It is the second round of strikes in 3 nights after multiple attacks with balloon borne devices. The violence will further strain a fragile ceasefire in place since 21 May. The truce followed 11 days of fighting between Israel and militants in Gaza. This week's airstrikes are the first under Israel's new Prime Minister Naftali Bennett, whose coalition replaced long standing leader Benjamin Netanyahu on Sunday. Let's move to our next important news. US Supreme Court blocks child slavery lawsuit against chocolate firms. The US Supreme Court has ruled food giant Nestle, USA, and Cargill can't be sued for children slavery on African farms from where they buy their cocoa. 6 African men alleged that they were trafficked from Mali and forced to work on cocoa farm in Ivory Coast. The group say both companies perpetuated that slave trade to keep cocoa prices low. The court ruled 8-1 that the group had no standing because the abuse happened outside the US. Let's move to our next important slide, please. Climate change. Even virtual talks make little progress. Exhausted delegates have concluded 3 weeks of virtual climate negotiations with little progress on key issues. The UN subsidiary bodies meeting was meant to clear the decks ahead of the major COP26 gathering in Glasgow in November, but technical glitches and multiple time zones scuppered attempts to find common ground. Ministers from 40 countries will meet in July to push the process forward. Developing nations are also concerned that a lack of vaccines may limit their ability to take part in Glasgow conference. But the UK says it will ensure all accredited delegates will get their jabs ahead of the summit. Let's move to our next important slide, please. At least 5 killed, 39 injured in gang brawl in Honduras prison. Tegucigalpa. At least 5 inmates were killed and 39 prisoners and girls were injured on Thursday in a brawl between gang members at a high security prison in Honduras, judicial authorities said. The 3 hour confrontation involving live ammunition and at last one grenade began when members of the Bio 18 gang entered a section for members of the rival Mara Salvatrucha 13 gang in the La Tolva prison east of Tegucigalpa. The facility houses more than 15,000 inmates according to authorities. Let's move to our next important news. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern gets pain-free COVID-19 vaccine shot. Wellington, New Zealand. Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern received her first shot of the Pfizer COVID 19 vaccine on Friday as the country steps up efforts in inculcate its population. The Pacific Island nation shut its borders and used tough lockdown measures to become one of the few countries to have virtually eliminated COVID 19 in the community. But the government is facing criticism for a slow rollout of vaccines. I'm smiling under the mask, Andrew said as she sat down to receive the shot at a vaccination center in Auckland as a media watched on. Let's move to our next important slide, please. World Test Championship Final. New Zealand and India excited for historic final. India versus New Zealand. World Test Championship Final Test live cricket score streaming online updates. There will be no play in the first session of the World Test Championship Final between India and New Zealand in Southampton on Friday, owing to incessant rain. The match was scheduled to start at 3 p.m. Indian Standard Time, but the weather ensured that the pitch at the Aegis Bowl was covered and the toss was delayed. The ICC has kept a reserve day to make up for time lost because of inclement weather. Rain has been focused in Southampton for most part of the inaugural title clash in the longest format. Let's move to next. Thank you very much for watching till end. You are kindly requested to subscribe, like and share with your friends. Don't forget to hit the bell icon for latest update from our end. Till our next video, take care of yourself and have a great moment ahead. Thank you once again.